Hello, welcome back to Chat About It. Don't chat about it with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters. So in the last video that we had about Doctor Who, we were talking about some villains. Now we're going to think about talking about the aliens. What alien could potentially save Doctor Who? Because, well, people are saying that Doctor Who is dead. But we're just going to have a little bit of fun. And of course, I brought back my friends from the last video. We have Brandon. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, you good?
Hello from the colonies. Yes, ma'am. Having a really good week. The only
Yeah.
thing bad over here is pollen's really bad right now. So
Yeah.
whether you have a green car or not, you've got a green car right now because it's covered with an inch of pollen. We don't get the rain you do to knock it down every 5 minutes, you know.
True. And we've had a lot of rain just recently with all the storms and that. And of course, we also have Brendan. Hey, Brendan. You all
Hello.
right?
Well, he thinks we don't have hay fever here. My God, we've got wind here, Brandon. We've got wind.
Stupid things you ask. Yeah, I was talking to Tuna, and he's in England. And I was like, "Hey, man, do y'all have pollen over there?" And then when I told my wife that, she looked at me like, "Are you stupid?" Well, of course they pollen all over the earth, you know.
When I lived in Japan, they have these awful trees. Now I do have hay fever. I am a hay fever sufferer.
Me too. I got it as an adult.
When I lived out there near the in the play park when I was where I was working, these trees, I don't even know what type of the trees they were, some kind of pine tree. Oh my goodness, just couldn't breathe. It couldn't breathe. Right, well, here we are again. What could save Doctor Who? But this time we are looking at our aliens. So which alien is first up? The Time Lords.
Man, I'm starting to sound like Scales talking about there should be more than just one showrunner. You know, he came on and did a stream with me and John Yolden the other day. We had fun with that. This was my choice, I believe, unless it was somebody else's as well. But please bring them back, fix them, do something to erase the whole. Okay, in theory, a Cyberman that gets shot and regenerates and gets back up, in theory, that could be kind of neat. Say, like, you splice some DNA in there or something like that. But, like, I didn't need all of Gallifrey getting killed when I've been waiting over 10 years for them to get back there and tell me some of the secrets. I just want the secrets, right? So I would like for them to bring the Time Lords back. Obviously, you ask the questions, like some people say it's dead or it's alive. You know, maybe that's what should be decided is, like, you know, obviously the show's still alive because it's still going, but for it to not be like metaphorically dead, they need to pull off some sort of turnaround where they can fix and like kind of retcon some of these mistakes. And I hate to just keep throwing off on Chibnall, but obviously Timeless Child, the cyber masters, and I hate that stuff, man. So bring the Time Lords back, give me the goodies. Maybe we even free Barusa from his imprisonment or something, come up with a new actor. But I would like that, or maybe even like an episode or series of episodes where the Doctor goes back to the history of the Time Lords and maybe somehow gets involved with that. But I want to see them more, and I just think there's something there that they're not exploiting. I think there's just something special about it they could be using that they're not. I don't know what. Or I'd come up with it and write it myself, but I just think there's something there. They've got a gold mine there that they're not tapping.
Oh, there's no reason why they couldn't. I mean, well, Traken, keep on Traken. That planet was destroyed, but they revisited it in the audio drama. Sorry, Brandon, spoiler warning. I should have.
Oh, good. Hey, I'm thankful, guys. I'm
listening to those,
and I'm loving it. So, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. So yeah, there's no reason. There's no reason why they could. What do you think, Brendan?
You see, this is my problem. But do you know what? I try and think, saving Doctor Who, and I'm thinking of the casual viewers. The casual viewers may not know much even about the Timeless Children happening. Nobody was watching. So, you know, when you think, you know, don't rub a scab, don't, you know, reopen that scab, assume it didn't happen, you know, like the half-human Doctor Who movie, just assume that line didn't happen. And although every Doctor Who fan obsessively, and we're all in that park, we want this rectified, I also think just pretend it didn't happen. I know that's problematic, but in a way, because, you know, having to try and unravel it and explain it, and it ends up
And
getting
there
all
may be
messy.
drama involved.
And
Yeah.
and the casual viewer might go, I don't know what's going on here. What was wrong with the Doctor Who movie? They had that bit explaining regeneration at the beginning with another Doctor, and that was a mistake, really. So if you ever have the Time Lords back, and I do want them back, they'd need to just suddenly appear as if they were back in Deadly Assassin. That was their peak, I think.
Well, yeah, they don't even have to visit those crazy cyber ones or whatever. I guess it could be a different time, and they could just ignore it. I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah, it's just I just don't want them to have to get bogged down in stuff. Have a good story,
I think what Brendan's saying is the logical approach. So of course I'm thinking of as the fans, nerd.
Yeah.
But like what Brendan's saying would be more like the approach the original and new show had, where we start smaller, we get you hooked into what we've got, and once you asking mystery, especially for me when I was a new viewer for New Who, it's like, oh, okay, what is this? Time Lords and a time war and all that stuff. So as you kind of slowly unpeel the onion or the orange or whatever. So I think Brendan's got a much more measured approach to it that would probably appeal to a broader fan base. And I would be willing to be patient for the bigger payoff for them to do something slowly.
You could even. Oh, sorry, Brendan. Go on.
Oh, no, sorry. For example, in Terror of the Autons, the Time Lord just appeared. And just in Genesis of the Daleks, the Time Lord just appeared. Have the Time Lords never mentioned, and then suddenly one character appears. And so the Doctor goes, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And they almost just knock their nose and go, there's more. You don't know what's been going on behind the scene. You know what I mean?
That's one of the things I think sometimes Doctor Who's been the best at is stringing you along for the mystery, but not necessarily in a way that makes you mad and want to stop watching. You just keep taking the crumbs and following the trail for more,
Yeah. Brendan, that was exactly what I was going to say, actually. So you took the words right from my mouth. But yeah, have one of them maybe and then build it up. Yeah, I like that.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I quite like the Time Lords, but we don't get to see much.
I like I say this a lot. I know because I'm so big on the story quality and everything. But there's just certain aesthetic things. God, I hope you people over there in England can understand me. But there's certain aesthetic things about Doctor Who that I find just really appealing. An example is the look of Sutekh. I like the look of the Time Lords and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, I think there's a lot of special stuff about Doctor Who that maybe they aren't exploiting, but that's just some of the things that appealed to me about it.
And I like the Robert Holmes idea of the CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency. And I love the idea that now and again they could just say we've taken control of your TARDIS and you're here with a mission, a bit like you had to kill the Daleks,
right?
And then of course he's thinking, I thought you weren't here. I didn't think you existed. And of course the fans will be excited, but no explanation. And he's also been directed. You can win on this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Totally.
It'll be just how you approach it.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, Brandon.
Well, here's a funny scenario, guys. How you'll be like, man, what we need is another Philip Hinchcliffe, another Robert Holmes, another Terrence Dicks, or man, we need another RTD. Well, he's still alive. He should come back and maybe not. Yeah, because that was one of those fantasy things. Well, they need to bring RTD back. He'll fix it. Okay.
Yeah.
So here we sit now,
And then we had that. Certainly, it was very interesting, those specials. But
oh yes.
Let's find out who's next.
All right.
Zygons.
Well, and it's very specific. The Zygons from the original. They've been shape-shifted in a way I don't like for Day of the Doctor and Zygon Inversion.
Right.
The originals, I have to say, I know I'm older, so just go with me. But the interior of the Zygon spaceship and all that organic, and the lighting,
some years ago,
and the sound effects of it. I know that actor's no longer with us, but the one who played Broton, outstanding voice. And they're actually very sinister, aren't they? I mean, I can see now certain shots from the original when one went to grab the neck of Sarah Jane, and they've got speed on them. And of course, the other crucial thing that I think is important with Zygons, because I was actually watching Sarah of the Zygons the other day, and they were talking about they need a planet. and they're still out there. And they'd called for the mothership to come to Earth, so that's not been resolved ever in Doctor Who. And the other thing is, they're shapeshifters, so you can go cheap. You can certainly have, like I've mentioned in our previous show about Taron Capel and Magnus Greel, you don't have to see them all the time. So therefore, you always get that lovely little bit of shock value. You know our problem with monsters sometimes. And I went down my list of who I could choose. And of course, yes, Daleks overused, Cybermen overused, blah, 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 blah. I thought the Zygons you can do a lot with, just in small doses again, because they will have integrated. It sounds like I'm doing the Zygon inversion again. I'm not. You can find them on another planet. They can shapeshift to anybody. The beauty is the Doctor never knows who he's dealing with. It could be a Zygon. And that's great that. The Zygons could be everywhere, but you don't know it. It's just if you can get to the original presentation, the original voicing, the original organic spaceship, and not... I mean, they made them have pointed teeth in the latest ones. They didn't look like that. Don't do it. They were those spaghetti hoop men. That's what they were, the spaghetti hoop men.
Brendan, in the original, wasn't it that the difference between, say, like the new Who Zygons and the originals, didn't they actually have to put the person that they wanted to copy in the booth and have them alive and in the booth to copy? Whereas in the new stuff, it was just like contact. I like... Because, I mean, you know, they've already got an advantage by being able to shapeshift, right? So why not give them that little story crutch? I mean, because that adds an element for me is they've got to have the person and put them away to copy them. You know, I think that was I like that way of doing it in the original.
It's more scary.
And you've got the shock value of if they ever reveal. You know, that one moment when it went from a nurse to a Zygon behind Sarah Jane was 1 second. That's all you need. But then the other thing is, if the original kind of husk of the body is still alive somewhere, the Doctor's got to deal with the peril, but then deal with the rescue. So you've got a lot that can go on. And of course, I'm not saying it has to be cheaper, but, you know, I think less is more. We've said the Time Lords, less is more. The one Dalek was better than the whole army of Daleks. One Time Lord better. Zygons in small doses would be much more authentic, I think.
I'm glad I didn't choose them now since you did, because I almost did. I was like, I don't know how I justify it, but Brendan did. So I agree with that, man. And plus, they definitely could integrate the new Who elements and just maybe kind of improve on some things.
Yeah, both very good choices. Awesome. So the next one is actually one that everyone will definitely know, unless they've obviously started watching the soft reboot that we are having in May. But this one is classic, but in a very different way. The Weeping Angel.
Okay. Now I know that I picked this. I don't know nobody else, but I want the origin of the angels. I mean, is it revealing too much to get their origin? I know that there was that little nod when Timothy Dalton says to that lady that people think might be the Doctor's mother. Was it Into the World or what?
Like that.
Yeah. And so is there something there? Or even if you don't go that route, I'm fine if it doesn't have anything to do with, but it just seems like a perfect curse for the Time Lords to lay on you would be the Weeping Angels, like just like in their harsher, like more interfering days when they were like an empire or something, just cursing some planet that pissed them off, you know?
Do you know that could actually tie that into bringing the Time Lords back in, if they do relate.
You need to package this and send it to BBC and tell them we don't have to. You hired these two Brits. We don't have to tell them you hired an American. You know what I'm saying? We can tell them. You know, or like whenever they show me, I just like they do an interview with the new writers, and I just don't say anything. He's mute. You know, that would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the the Time Lord mother theory before, but yeah, there's no reason why they couldn't do that. I mean, the Weeping Angels, that plays into that inanimate object, which you don't actually believe can move, but then suddenly moves.
I would maybe work it in, like, you know, depending on what lore you're exposed to, like in some of the ways it's told. And here is my being tainted by reading all those New Adventures books and all that Cartmel and Ben Aronovich and all that stuff. But they had a split, whereas like in their telling of the Time Lords were more religious and more superstitious, and they followed the Pythias. They probably look kind of like the Sisterhood of Karn, because they're descended from them. So they break off. Razlan turns into the Time Lords and all that stuff. And then whatever's left of the sisterhood breaks off and goes to Karn. But like, I wondered if they could work that into like when they had their schism, maybe they cursed a bunch of the sisters to be weeping angels, something like that was what I was thinking. But that it would definitely, it's funny you said that, Rachel, because in my mind I was thinking they would almost have to tie their origin in with the Time Lords somehow. But
in
I'd
some
like to see
way.
more of them. Great vehicle for fear, just like the Zygons were. You know, they could use fear and kind of scary storytelling elements with them too.
And with this, this would also work well as with what Brendan was saying, like the less is more. So you can have one weeping
You don't have to do
angel.
much.
Yeah, I often found that in Moffat's era, because they were his creation, that he used them too much.
Yeah, you think maybe he was conscious of that, maybe a little too conscious of it, you know, too self-conscious about using old.
His original idea, because I watched his interview with Glasgow University recently, and he mentioned why he came up with that creation, and it was just taking his son for a walk when they're on holiday. And they saw, and he said he's never seen it again. And it's been moved since, this weeping angel statue in this rickety old kind of, I think it was a graveyard or an old house. And he said, we had a nosy. And then he said he went years later and he said it wasn't there. And he's looked for it everywhere on the globe and he can't find it. And he can't find any weeping angels apart from the ones from Doctor Who. And so there's your point. The point is you could just have, I love the idea that the weeping angel is almost like your death card, that once there's one in your garden, you know you're stuffed. That lovely idea that, it's like, it can go very supernatural and poltergeisty. You know, a family move into a house near a graveyard and then suddenly one day there's a weeping angel in your back garden. We've got trouble. You know, it, like you say, less is more.
You can do a small, scary story like that maybe even hints at something later that's bigger. Yeah, start small. I'm starting to agree with that approach for sure.
Oh, yes, it's a good approach. I like that kind of approach. But yeah, okay, so another brilliant choice. Now, this next one, this one's actually my one. And this is, I don't really have a massive reason for saying this. The Autons. I
almost picked it. All right, cool.
Okay, I have this innate fear of shop mannequins, and that's really the reason why I want them to be brought back. I know they did get brought back in Rose. When I remember when I first sat down to watch Rose, thinking, "Oh, great! What alien are we gonna get?" And I was like, "Oh crap! It's the Autons I was hiding." I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And that was just once, but that was very impactful for me because it's like I always feel like they're watching you.
I like the way they look in classic better than new, personally.
Yeah,
and
me too.
I don't like it. Moffat kind of bastardized them with the whole Rory and involving him and all that stuff. But I'd like to see more of like the original nesting consciousness, that sort of stuff. Go back to that and maybe explore that a little more.
It's a weird one. It's a weird one, isn't it, Rachel? Because you said the shop mannequin thing is the thing you fear, and yet the originals, which I agree we should have, didn't look totally like mannequins. I mean, look at the police officers in the car when he ripped off their mask, and it was just look at them when they're in that factory being made, and they're all just in blue overalls, and they basically had their kind of cloudy mask on. And as a kid, that freaked me out. And in a way, it's a bit like Carry On Screaming. They can then be made into a mannequin if necessary, but they're just a kind of core plastic, and you can have your own different exteriors. I said on my stream recently when we looked at Rose, I said actually the new Autons were too attractive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, why would you be scared of them? You know what I mean? They had a good physique and all. It's like, what? And then that noise, I didn't like that overuse of plastic noise all the time as they moved. The originals were they shifted fast. The original ones, I tell you what, they marched on you. You're hiding in some shed. I think it was the Spearhead from space. Oh my God. And they come up your backyard. Wow. And I just think their speed was more scary in the original, not this slow walk with Rose saying she's trying to get her lottery ticket sorted out and everything.
And the thing about this type of character is that you really would only need one episode. one story for this character to come back. You just wouldn't know when you were going to get it. They don't necessarily need to be involved in a whole story arc or anything like that. I personally think, because obviously this is something that actually plays into people's phobias in real life. So it's like, how much do you actually play that onto the screen? And well, from what I understand, I may have this wrong, but back when they first introduced the Autons, this was quite a controversial sort of thing, because apparently they received complaints, if I got that correct. It was too scary, because it was a very relatable thing that children and even adults could be afraid of. So
there were two complaints. When I say two complaints, two separate complaints. One was in Parliament about the daffodils, and the other one was about police officers being baddies. And
boy, you guys ain't seen nothing yet. They ain't seen nothing. The things they complained about back then, it was like I was at one of my kids' musical performances and they were playing like Black Sabbath, and I was like, if this was 30 or 40 years ago, that'd have been like protesting this, you know. So it's funny how things have changed, you know, what we think is extreme and what, you know, seems almost like puritanical.
It'd be so a message now, you know. I mean, all this anti-plastic, and yeah, I mean, you could have sleeper cells everywhere. I love this idea of sleeper
Brendan,
cells.
you know, they're saying there's microplastics in our blood now.
Like
that would be a great vehicle for a story with the Autons, like the NES team's trying to take people over by getting in human.
Brandon,
hey guys, listen, I'm in North Carolina, they're in England. You can find us on 3 different channels if you want to hire us.
Let's copyright all this now, quick.
I'm cheap. I'm very cheap.
Over the screen. Okay. Well, other than that, there was no major reason for me to have that one, other than my innate fear of mannequins. But of course, I did also put this to the vote as well. Let's see what they chose. Okay, so which classic alien could save Doctor Who and why? Now, this one got 132 votes. So we had the Mara, and in this case, we have Antons instead of Autons.
They're like the real erudite, like Autons, you know, with their plastic noses up in the air.
He's a judge on Strictly.
He's a judge on Strictly, and that is exactly how this relates to what I have typed on here. I do apologize about that. I actually made this particular poll for my phone, and I've been talking about Anton de Beck with my friend, and that's
autocorrect.
It was autocorrect and changed it to Anton's, and by then it was too late. So the Mara 14%, Antons 17%, or the Autons I should say, Ice Warriors 46%, Axos 22%, and this was all like playing sort of like between each other, and then eventually the Ice Warriors at 46%. Now, what do we think of that? I think it's a good choice.
I actually considered 3 out of the 4, and I'm mad that I didn't consider the 4th. Mara, I thought about, that's easily something extra to tap. We just talked about the
bring Tegan back.
What?
I said, would you have to bring Tegan back for those?
Yeah, that's fine with me. That's fine with me.
That's fine with me.
Even if she's not still young and hot, I don't care. Just bring her back. I like Tegan. I always liked her quite a bit. So, like the Mara, the Autons, the Ice Warriors, I thought about. I think there's some untapped potential there. But now here's the one I actually would have picked out all the 4 of them. Here gets into what I'm always going on about the aesthetics. Axos. That's another example to me of a wonderful Doctor Who aesthetic I wouldn't mind seeing again. You think maybe it looks old, silly, cheap, but you take a look at what they did with what they had and like the originality in it, I would love to see a return of like the whole Axos thing. That would be cool.
It's a bit like the Zygons. Their spaceship inside was so organic, wasn't it? It was fantastic.
Yeah. I just thought that was really original for 50 some years ago. I really liked that whole thing.
So I just looking at some of the comments here. Someone actually said none of the above. Something like the Guardian trilogy, which we actually briefly covered in the previous video, Eternals, or even Meglos. What do you think about those 2 options? Eternals or Meglos?
Eternals for sure. Meglos, I don't remember as much. I'm actually on a rewatch to re-educate. I've seen it only once. So I don't remember, but Eternals definitely.
I think Eternals are interesting because if you think of the Mara that was mentioned and got traction, the Eternals, I like that psychology bit, and the fact that that one Eternal was playing with Tegan's brain and trying to read into it, and she was trying to put barriers up. It's very adult. I think that sort of creeps people out. It's like a mental abuse, isn't it, to invade your brain?
Well,
and I think,
like when you juxtapose like a real worldish or normal person with like a character like the Eternals, one thing I like for them to play into is a being like this. I need to enunciate more for my British friends. A being, I don't say a being like this, a being like the Eternals who isn't necessarily good or evil from their eyes. Like they're just above it all. Like they just do what they do. And so just the whole thing of trying to get them to look down at what they're doing and notice the little person and maybe even stop what they're doing. It's a great vehicle for storytelling, I think.
And it invites a version of the war games, which I know was the Warlords now, but it invites this kind of everybody's a toy. It invites another space. I mean, there's another way of doing it. We've had a space race, and we've had the war games. We've had the 5 Doctors have played with people. And so it's a nice idea in Doctor Who where you are the small people and you don't realize till end of a narrative arc that there's something bigger. And that's good. That ties it together. So the Eternals would work. And because 14% said the Mara, I do like this psychology aspect.
I hate snakes, but crazy off subject question. Like, you guys say your garden, but like I'd say, like if I'm out in my yard, garden's like where we plant like vegetables and stuff to us. So my yard is just everything, like what you call your back garden, front garden. But like I have to watch out for snakes. Like, we have my state, North Carolina, I think has more poisonous snake bites than, or one time we had more than any other. Like, do you guys have to watch out for poisonous snakes where you live?
No.
Nice.
No.
Okay.
The most that we have is the adder, but that tends to be my accent came out there.
That sounds almost like me, adder.
Oh, you farmer girl, you southerner. That's what I am. I'm from the south. But
well, our accent comes from poor English people that came over here from like southern England places, and so actually, if you get into the minutia, it actually is like our southern accent is just a perversion of like a commoner English accent. I know it sounds crazy, but like I'm into linguistics stuff.
Well, no,
Spanish
actually,
and stuff.
yeah, you're right. You're right, because like hundreds of years ago in certain different areas, they used to all talk sort of more like that. That kind of thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But now
the snakes
do that. Yeah,
snakes scare me. I hate like when we mow the yard, or actually most of the time we get somebody else to do it now. But I hate having to look out for snakes. It's like one of my biggest fears during the warm weather. Tall grass, like we really have to watch out for them. And so no Mara for me. It's a good choice, but now I hate snakes, so no.
Wow, what am I doing?
I don't know. I'm really intrigued by these Antons. I think these Antons,
the new creation of the Autons.
They're very dangerous. They make you dance in certain tango and salsa.
Anton would be an Auton dressed as like a maitre d' with the cloth over it.
That's what would happen. Well, there you go. There you have it. Those are our chosen aliens. Do you agree with us? If you don't, comment with yours below. And well, friends, Brendan, where can we find you?
So at the moment, we're Sundays 7 p.m. big magazine show. We mix latest news, a bit of merchandise, and a big hot topic debate with lots of different opinions. And on Tuesdays at 4, we tend to do a review of an old episode, New Who or Classic Who.
Awesome, thank you. And Brandon, where can we find you?
Saturdays, me and a couple of guys I stream with are in a group called the Culture Council. We do a show named that on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we might review something we've been watching, and then afterwards talk about pop culture, real world news. And then Sundays, I like to go over and hang out with you guys on Brendan's channel for the Sense Sphere. So that's usually where you can find me. But yeah, go to @CulturePapa, and you'll find links in our videos to the other people like Joe Benoli and Diabolical Tuna. They're in the group with me. So go check it out when you get a chance. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video too.
Yeah,
absolutely. With that being said, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya.